Well, good to have you back, and it's a 7:30 in the evening here in regards to the East African Community Standard Time, the EAT. And of course, our conversations here are rotating around economic development in Uganda. I did mention that economic development has quite a number of factors that drive and push it. Not only that, I also added into the fact that besides the factors that affect or impact, you realize it's more like a huge basket where you're only picking or plucking off a few factors that lead to economic development, and of which we want to at least break down a few of those. The national budget will be presented next week. The the financial year 2023-2024 comes to effect 1st July this very year. So at the backdrop of the State of the Nation address, you realize that we are even getting off script in relation to what the president has said, but looking at the realistic things that we are definitely seeing with our own eyes, or the kind of experience that you, a Ugandan, and us in here at Smart 24 are facing. But well, this time around we talk investment. The investment environment in Uganda has seen tremendous growth in regards to quite a number of investors that have come into the country. Industrial parks have been set up, and well, foreign investment is the key driver of Uganda's industries, if you come to think of it, not only today, but for quite some time. However, lately, the local investors feel unfavored. They feel the government is not giving them as much the attention it is giving to, let's say, a foreigner who comes in from the Arabian countries, one who comes in from Europe, or the one who comes in from the West. So they feel the government, with the issue, besides the tax holidays that are given to these foreign investors, there are lots of other privileges that the foreign investors tend to experience that the locals never experience. Even when you look at the kind of access to loans, it is more easier for the foreigners to access than the local investors, because even the banks themselves would rather give loans to the government than to the local investors, because at least with the government, they feel it's secure and the chances of regaining these particular interests is viable. Of course, you can't blame anyone, more so the commercial banks, because theirs is to make interest because they're already into the private sector. Now, still with the public relations officer, rather the spokesperson as well, PRO of the National Economic Empowerment Dialogue. And of course, as we are looking at this deeper and understanding more of Uganda's economic development, Mr. Matovu, the investment environment in Uganda so far, 3 decades of the NRM ruled. I wouldn't want to go deep into the political perspective of it, but now in the last few years, our environment is highly favoring, not so much though, but favoring the foreigners than the local investors themselves, and this quite looks unfavorable to our locals.
That is very true. The foreign investors enjoy a few things like the exemptions,
yes,
the tax holidays.
The tax holidays.
But again, you realize that at the end of that holiday, say if the span was 10 years or 5, at the end of the road, you see them pack their things and leave. That literally translates to the bad environment. It means the environment, the climate is not so favorable
for them to stay.
For them to stay.
Okay, to prolong their.
But again, if you're speaking development and in the investment, look at the capital. Capital is very expensive in Uganda. Very expensive. Look at the interest rates. Comparing, now when the Chinese come, they get their money from Exim Bank. Okay? Now, the local investor goes to these banks of ours with that high interest. When you start your business today, it's very uncertain. You're not so sure that you'll see its second whatever, the second, its birthday. 2 years, the business is closed. Why? Because one, the loans are very expensive. Servicing them becomes a problem. And again, the process of acquiring these loans, again, it's very tedious. So you find the so-called investors, local investors, resorting to money lenders. Again, with the huge and high interest. So that stifles the business growth. Unlike the foreigners who are favored, they don't pay taxes, they are given free land, they are given, at times, they're even given power, electricity, So they begin from advantage. But again, after a certain period, you see them exiting businesses. That literally means the environment is not so favorable at all. Now, another factor you can look at is land. Look at the competition now we have in Uganda. There is unhealthy competition. Evictions, disputes. I remember a certain investor, I think, was it again Pinetti, who was given land, who was given disputed land?
The COVID deal.
You understand? So even that one of Lobo, disputed land. So that factor that would favor, again, it has a lot of contestations. Now, where are we free? In terms of accessing capital in form of money, the money is expensive. The processes are rigorous. So basically, you find that the investment cannot run smoothly as it would be. When you go to corruption as a hindrance, our president is singing that song every time he gets a chance. And it has nothing to do with it. He has nothing to do with it. Corruption everywhere for the investors, even for the locals, corruption is a very big disease. Actually, it's one of the reasons that we see the investment area being crippled. Corruption itself. And it's becoming a norm. Talking about corruption is like, you have nothing. It's normal. In Uganda, it's normal.
And we're used to it.
Yeah, we are used to it. But just look at you think of the impact of corruption. So, basically, investment, when I saw President Museveni talking about the challenges these investors face, he mentioned corruption and the bureaucracy, really, I felt like, is this man still in control? Is he in control? And it is his people doing that. And at times, he gets to know who is doing it. And he has nothing to do with it. But he has the executive powers to take action. But he can never do it. Because when you're looking at economic growth, especially in these developing countries, politics is very, very key in determining the growth and development of these countries. What is the political environment under which you operate? Does this political environment guarantee you to invest your $1 billion? Does it guarantee you? How do you perceive it? Because it's a very determinant thing. Today, when you see what is happening politically in Uganda, it scares these investors. That's why you hear every time the president is quarreling with Bobby Wine because he's telling the whites not to bring their money here, Meaning the political environment is a very determinant factor in the development, but you can see nothing can be changed because we have to consolidate our power. We have to stay at whatever cost, whatever we get. Now, you go to our budget. You said the budget is going to be unveiled to
next week.
Next week. Of the 52 trillion, how much do you have for development projects? It's about 4 trillion. out of 52 point something trillion, you have only 4 trillion for development. But now, which kind of development? It's another question. We are very indisciplined when it comes to spending. The money would be there for development, but we are very indisciplined. Look at the way we spend money on travels. President talked about benchmarking, that in the 60s, those leaders used to go for benchmarking and they were barely doing, they're doing nothing. The same stuff is happening now. A big budget for travels abroad, but what is the impact when they go and come back? What do they do?
I think that is one of the reasons as to why now they cut some of those particular expenses.
Which kind of cutting? It depends on who is going to travel.
They only left, I think, the president and...
Who tells you? You go to parliament for a week and you see. These members of parliament are always out. You go to the permanent secretaries, the directors of the departments. They are always out for benchmarking, for what, for trips. We are very extravagant. So I think development would be there because the money is there. But how do we spend our money? You imagine somebody is given 3.3 billion for entertainment. 3.3 billion for entertainment. You give someone 137 billion donations, 120 classified. 3.3 billion entertainment. So that is being extravagant. Look at the budget of the speaker, the two speakers. One is 13 billion, another is 11 billion. Now, so the money would be there. But again, there are some other issues we don't talk about. When you're talking about money to invest, money to develop this country, right? They're increasing taxes every now and then. But the question is, increasing taxes, does it translate to increase or widening of the tax base? You have increased the taxes. Have you widened the tax base? No. You are saying the economy is growing at 6.6%. But the increase in the budget is 16%. Now, what is the criteria? The economy grows at a rate of 6.6 or 5.5%. But you are increasing at a rate of 16% in your budget. And there is no tax. You have not increased on the tax base. How are you going to collect those taxes? And where are you going to collect those taxes? So, the business that is being charged, say 10,000, this time around is going to be charged 15,000. But there is nothing, there is no difference. You have not added anything onto it. And before you know, we are going to begin experiencing collapse after collapse in these businesses. Now, when we talk about the development of this country, he will tell you, we are now collecting this much from this much. But from how many people? What is the percentage? The tax collection in Uganda, actually the thing is 20, it is 20-80, 80 rule. 80% of the population do not directly pay tax. It is only the 20% who are burdened with the taxes. And actually this explains what the other thing I was telling you of, that they are exempted from taxes, right? And after their 10 maybe 10 years or 5 years span, they experience some other 3 years, they find it hard because the taxes are too huge. They have to invest. So now, how are you going to sustain development with those numerous high taxes without creating more avenues? You are taxing the similar business, different taxes. At least it would be better you create, actually in economics, now if I'm buying a bottle of water at 1,000 and I can only afford one bottle a day, it's better you reduce it to something like 800 and I buy around 4 bottles.
Yes.
You know that behavior, that just that slight decrease in the price can influence the consumers to buy in big numbers. Okay? So before you know, somebody who's been selling 1 bottle a day is going to sell 4 bottles. Where you've been earning 200 shillings as a profit, you're going to earn around maybe 500. That's the difference. But now you imagine the economists we have, actually these are fine economists we have, but because there is political influence in the way they do their things, they cannot translate that economics into reality. So that is why they are going to bring many taxes, but you realize the development still almost stays the same because many people are opting out of the business. Another one starts today, the other one is leaving. So the cycle is just like that. So I think there are areas we have to look at if we want to develop. Okay. Can we cut on the expenses? The expenditure is too huge for nothing really. Secondly, we have minerals in Uganda. I was sharing with colleagues outside there. I was telling them the year 2021 on export, we generated $6.5 billion from gold and other minerals. Okay? And we are rated 18th in terms of export of minerals. Okay? But now, this money is not reflected in the budget. When you're looking at the sources of income, we don't talk about minerals. If you can look at the budget we are about to read today, okay, you not find anything to do with income or revenue from minerals. Yes. Recently, Honorable Nankabirwa tried to come up with a tax of $200 per kilogram of gold, and this tax lasted for only 2 weeks, and it was scrapped off because people dealing in minerals contested it, and it was scrapped off. And now you have to increase tax on diapers, you have to increase tax on water, and yet you are at the same time you are promoting
the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda.
Yeah, yes. Now, isn't that contradictory?
It is.
Where you can get a lot of money that is from minerals, you're not taxing anything, and there are no taxes. But you are taxing, is it 200 from coffee? You are taxing 2% from coffee. You are taxing 8% from fish maw. You are taxing everything. But the most lucrative one,
you're not taxing.
You are not taxing it. But it is something that would bring in that huge sums of money in the coffers. Now, who bewitched Ugandans? Who bewitched our leaders? Don't you think they need prayers?
At a point.
Indeed, these people need prayers. You increase the budget at a rate of 16%, but the economic growth is 5.5%. Do they tally?
No.
And that's our economy. And the planners of this country, they are telling you, we are now moving forward. And everything is okay. Can we also commit to the budgets we make? You make a budget of 52 trillion, but at the end of the financial year, you're going to find it will be around 60 trillion. Even the 52 is too ambitious to believe. It's too ambitious. But by the end of the financial year, you're going to be around 60. Now, you're talking about the domestic investment, the domestic and foreign investment. Have you considered the domestic debt?
That is growing. Because
that is rated at 38%. It is at 38%.
And our public debt is actually at 80 now.
Okay. Yes. Trillion. It's around 80, is it 82? Something around then.
80 trillion. 82 trillion. It's at the 80 trillion mark already.
Yes. Now, when you have this big burden of this internal debt, the domestic debt, it is crippling all the businesses around. That is why now you hear many suppliers, government suppliers and the contractors are crying. And I have around 5 colleagues, contractors, their homes are being sold. Someone's school is being sold. I mean, everything. He has certificates worth 1.7 billion. He has not been paid for the past 1.5 years. But when you generate a certificate, when you do a government job, you get a certificate, the maximum it's supposed to only take 1 month and you're paid. But now this one certificate is 2021, another one is 2022, is not being paid. The bank is selling his properties. About 5 of them. They are crying. Now, because that is another category of investors, SMEs. Okay? Now, if such businesses are collapsing, now, what does that speak to employment? What does that speak to tax collection? So I think we have a problem. And when it comes to making budgets, we don't consider paying these people internally. And they're crying. You look at our budget, I think less than $1 trillion is apportioned for this. So now, you look at the competition, you talked about these commercial banks giving money to government than
the private players.
So where you have a stiff competition between the government
and the private sector,
definitely, what do you expect? So that's a very big challenge we are facing. So now, speaking development, speaking investment, and now somebody comes up with a Myoga and a PDM. Really, you wonder whether that is the way to go if you are to realize development. I think we need to check on the tax policies we have. Are they favorable or not? Are we creating a base? Or you're just mounting pressure onto this already existing business? Because you can't be taxing the same business with those numerous taxes and you think you're going to favor that business to grow. Derailing the creation of jobs, etc. So I think it's a big thing and it's a big challenge we are facing. But I want government to look at the mineral thing. There's a lot there with the minerals. We have hugely invested in mineral exploitation. But where are the results? Look at what we spend. Our president was comforting foreigners that Uganda, when he was talking about security and governance, said Uganda is a peaceful country, good for investment. Okay? Now, when you are talking about security, we have our children who are now in Somalia. They have been killed and they have always been killed. So you go to Congo, go to Sudan. Why do we have to spend so much on those foreign nations? Recently, we are running budgets of 900 billion financing that Congo war. What is the impact? What is the benefit to the taxpayer? Can the government one time come up and say, we have been in Congo, we've been in Sudan, we have been here, but now according to maybe the incomes we are getting, like in Sudan we are getting this much because we managed maybe to pacify. In Congo we are getting this because now maybe the trade is booming. Such things are not there. We are for peace, 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 peace. That is why Trump said, if you want me to keep peace in your country, you pay for it. Can they pay for our soldiers than the taxpayers' money going to finance such pacifications?
Okay.
You understand? So
yes.
I was looking at how do we spend
as a country?
Well, is it necessary?
Okay.
Is that the priority really? Because we are struggling country. We are struggling. Businesses are collapsing. And you are saying no subsidies. You don't believe in subsidies. But that economics I don't understand actually.
Okay. And of course, our matters to do with analyzing economic policies in the country is what we do here. The point is very evening. We are looking back at what has been happening in regards to the State of the Nation address, and furthermore building it on the state of the nation currently in regards to economic development. These are bigger conversations that we are having currently. And of course, as we continue to give you all these updates, remember to follow us more on our socials, as you can share with us what you feel is rightfully a big concern in the country. But not only that, though, we are live on our YouTube, that is at Smart24 TV. Smart24 TV, please remember to subscribe and also share your feedback in regards to our topic of discussion this very evening. Not only that, but also remember to download the Smart Digital app. With the Smart Digital app, you can easily stream Smart24 TV wherever and whenever you feel like, as well as listening on to Smart FM. That is, if you are a radio person, and also streaming and listening to NBS Cordeo wherever you are. The point does take a break. When we return at the top of the hour, we discuss more of what to expect in the next financial year, as the budget will be presented come next week. This is the point where we analyze economic policies. We'll be back shortly.